All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to your favorite podcast where we have uncomfortable conversations. I'm your host, Juice, aka No Ordinary Brother.
What's good, everybody? I go by the name of King Exodus. Welcome back to your favorite show. Thank you for tapping in with us. Make sure you engage, share the live, share the video.
All right, y'all. All right, y'all. I'm going to start off on one of these random topics for the day. I said random topics. One of these daily topics for the day. One of the things that caught my attention that's kind of catch a wave right now. I don't know if y'all noticed. We talked about it a little bit last time. Was the Anthony Edwards situation with his baby mama? We have a man that's willing to pay for child support up front. If that's a possible thing to be done, I'm just kind of looking at it. Would that be something that most people are looking to do if it's possible, if they have the money? Some people are looking at it like, hey, listen, if this gets approved, this can really determine like what a woman can actually sustain on her own if she was given something up front than using child support for the longevity of 18 years and trying to utilize that money as it goes versus one large lump sum. So that's something I wanted to talk about. I see a lot of different things that's going on. I see some men cheering. I see some women cheering. Like, yo, you mean I can get paid up front and I don't have to worry about if he's going to pay me down the line? You know, what if that is possible? If you do have the finances or something behind it, uh, like I said, I just want to kind of put it on the table. It's interesting to see a lot of things partake in just in their own lives and how he's still living forward, like moving about it with nonchalant, just like hey, it's over, it's done, I'm moving forward. I still got my other kids and my own lady to take care of. And hey, just want to put it on the table, man. So I'll say this, man. What's your thoughts on that?
Uh, it's not a new thing. Even like the average person can pay ahead on your child support. Uh,
Hmm.
it's not new. Uh, I would say, I think it's not the best situation. It's not ideal for him
Hmm.
to just throw money at the situation and that's it. But yeah, it's not a new thing. They call it future pay status. You could pay ahead in increments, or you can pay the whole thing off if you got it. Um, it's just, to be honest, it's just a shit show of a situation.
Hmm.
Yeah, I just think still as a father, if the access is there, you should still try to be active in some type of way besides just the money. So that's that's all I got.
I mean, listen, I appreciate that. You said regardless if you have the money, you should still be a part of that child's life. I think one of the biggest things about the situation is like the abortion situation when he gave her 100K up front, but like, hey, I want you to get an abortion, and she's decided to keep the 100K. So I think on that level he felt betrayed. But we have heard about scenarios even on a smaller scale. Men are like, hey, I don't want you to have a child. Here's the money, go get the abortion, and women are keeping the money and put it towards once the child is born. So you have the well, like I said, determine their life. I know every life is valuable and everything, but I think there's the sign of the betrayal even after that that some people take upon themselves. Like, listen, if you wasn't gonna do it, why don't you just get the money back? That would have been a better sign of okay, it's not the money that you're after. You really want to have this life than it is for you to keep the money and keep the child when I'm giving you something initially to do with it. Like I don't know if you ever had a situation where your parents might have gave you some money, be like, "Hey, listen, I want you to go in the grocery store. I need you to grab these items, and I need you to bring it back." Right? And sometimes in situations, you grab the exact items. Sometimes you might have grabbed the wrong items. First thing's going out their mind is, "Yo, where the rest of the money?" Right? You might have helped yourself to a soda, or you might have forgot about it. But what I'm saying is basically what they're giving you the money for is the intention of you buying that specifically without you doing anything else. That's that's what I'm getting at. I no direct exchange. But that was just my daily topic, man. Do you have anything you want to discuss, brother?
No, I'll say with that, even still, like, you know, intentional or not, once the deeds are done, whether the two people trust each other or not, the two people still have a connection and an obligation now that's there,
Mm.
So um, we all have reckless behaviors from time to time. I'm pretty sure the more money a man comes into access with not as much discipline, these types of things can happen. But once it goes down, now it's still an obligation there. Um, yeah, so whether you can or can't trust that person based on what's happened in the past, it still has to be a way that you move forward. And
Mm.
you can't change your DNA. You can't change the DNA you come from, and you can't change your DNA moving forward as so like what you produce. So that's still a part of you. That's all I'm saying. Like regardless of your relationship with the other parent, that's still your DNA, you know. So that
Nah, that's cool, brother.
didn't
That's
ask
cool.
to be here. So
All right, that's cool. That's fine, man. We can move forward, man. Is it anything you want to talk about, man? You the business expo when it comes to us, when it comes to that stock market, man. Anything on the stock market you want to discuss?
stocks is up. But on the stock tip, as I said in previous episodes, studying the market has resets and things of that nature. It goes down, it goes up. Um, you have to be hungry and have courage to act when everybody else is fearful. Be greedy when everyone else is fearful. Buy low, sell high. So Trump came up with a 90-day pause on tariffs. Um, some people say it was a combination of what was going on in the bond market. The 10-year bond was close to 5%, which is bad. So if the closer that gets like 5% and upward, it shows trajectory of a recession. And then you also have between 70 to 80 countries who want to negotiate the terms of the trade. So you have tariffs as an issue and non-tariff boundaries. Um, it was said that the U.S., Japan, and I can't think of the other country, but they were part of their deal was to build um, energy type of situation in Alaska. They would front most of the money and employ American people. So, like I said, it's tariff boundaries and non-tariff boundaries that the U.S. wants to negotiate. So, um, but outside of those countries, the only country that decided to clap back was China. So China still got to pay their 124%, I believe, or 104%. So yeah, 90-day pause, stocks went up, stocks going crazy. Investors like some type of assurance and some type of positivity in the market. The market kind of flows based on headlines and emotions, just like the real world. It don't always flow off information. You got hard data, soft data, and whatnot. So yeah, stocks is up. Yeah, I'm up like, you know, 20, 30% right now. Life is
Hey,
good.
tell the boys you up, brother. Tell them you up, man. That boy been working on the
But
side, bro.
but
I'm,
it
I'm,
went.
I'm a proud, I'm a proud man to see my brother do good, bro. And I just want y'all to know that right now. I'm a proud brother right now. You know what I'm
All right.
saying? Let's get to the meat and potatoes, y'all. So, country versus community mindset. I had this conversation with X. I was like, listen, I don't know about you as we've been getting older, but I noticed like a lot of things we weren't engaging in when we were younger because we didn't understand. But I noticed the difference between how people start thinking as a whole versus as just as a community. So I got a couple things I wanted to put on the line today. I was like, country mindset versus community mindset. So things I wrote down. So one of the things that the country mindset is it's more of a macro level, right? You have the pride in the culture, the flag, language, heritage, and the entire nation thinking in terms of laws, borders, politics, economy, and military, economy growth, international representation, national security, and emphasizing how different regions, cultures, and people fit into one nation's narrative. In other words, what's best for the nation as a whole? That's what you would see as a country mindset. Now, community mindset, it's a little bit what you would say micro. Why do we say micro? On these bases. Focus on smaller or more personal social groups. Uh, Share local experience, your neighborhood, town, tribe, church, and even online group. The interdependence, people look out for each other, share resources, solve problems together. Personal impact, your actions feel like they directly affect others and vice versa. This is when you always say like, hey, listen, buy black, stay black, and keep the black dollars circulating. Give y'all some examples. and you have a strong norms and traditions, often more face-to-face interactions. This would be the cultural tightness. This type of mindset would be, what's best for us right now, right now. The situation with Target is one of them. What they say, hey, listen, since DEI happened, this is what's going to be best for us right now, right now. We got to fight back. So the reason why I wanted to put a lot of behind this because I feel like this is something that needs to be discussed. I personally, on a level, I see the difference between how a black man who's more informed country-wise versus a man who always focuses on the smaller things, how why they always clashing. And I always felt like I wonder why is that? Is it because one's thinking overall broader and one's thinking about what's within his uh, area, X amount of miles within his community, or it does one really feel like one is taken away from the other? These are things that need to be discussed. These are things that needs to be addressed. And one of the things I had told X before is I noticed like when I heard some black men be on the basis of like, hey, listen, we got to do what's best for the country. There's always another black man to remind them like, don't forget what this country has done to you and to your people. So do we stick to that mindset, or do we understand that what this country has done, you can also benefit from it as well? Man, that's all I got laid out, man. I think that was good. I think that was good. I think it was good, bro.
Yeah. All right. Community aspect.
Hmm?
First building block of community is family. Without families, you don't have community.
Hmm.
So typically, you go from kind of like work your way up. You have family, communities. Um, Families form households. Households transcend communities. Communities begins to trickle into like cultural types of things, situations, then so forth, civilizations, empires, so forth and so on. So the fundamental basis of a community is family. Without families, you don't have a community.
Hmm.
So the way that not just black, but the way that we fundamentally build on that level is you emphasize family. So that cancels out individual behavior,
Hmm.
individualism. You know, we brought up a situation earlier with NBA player. We spoke about him not being an active father, but paying his child support up front. This will be counterproductive towards communities because it's counterproductive towards families.
Hmm.
So you have to have family structures in place. And then this would be like okay, what takes place within the household? Morals,
Hmm.
principles. Uh, I brought up in a previous episode, each family should have like a mission statement, some type of goals and morals and codes of ethics that they live by.
Hmm.
And what tends to happen is not by proximity, but now if my family shares common customs or common cultural beliefs and morals as your family, then now together, even if it's outside of proximity, we begin to form our own community
Hmm.
and so forth and so on. So you have a lot of things going on where people are debating left versus right, Democrat versus Republican, um, any type of divisiveness. What people just need to start doing is before we can get to a point to where everybody can mature in a mature aspect, respect the next person and coexist, we first have to find out what are our fundamental values and beliefs and let that be rooted off analysis and information, data, not so much of how we were raised or trained to think. This is how you can find your tribes more so and form your own communities because you're basing your household structure based off information, not your feelings, not your emotions.
Hmm.
If you implement feelings and emotions into the family and you let that control the family and how it functions, the family will always malfunction and break apart because it's not rooted on factual information. So this puts the emphasis not only on just men and women coexisting and getting along, but now what tends to happen is I have to emphasize the cerebral aspect of being in a family and structuring a community, which means I got to be the smartest man I could be, and then I have to make sure my woman is the smartest that she could be,
Mm,
and this is how we build.
mm,
That can't be an imbalance.
mm,
And then if bro and his girl operate like that, and so forth and so on, now when we go to the polls to vote, when we go start creating business ideas or exchanging any type of energy on those levels, now it's going to be more so successful towards the collective because now we represent something
mm,
outside of ourselves. So before we can even have the conversations as it pertains to race, and I'm growing to a level where I understand in America we're taught race in Western society, but when we really look at the grand scheme of things, that shit is trash because
mm,
race was defined not that long ago. I was studying the history of Mexico recently to where supposedly, let's go by the term Mesoamerican, which would be the original people in Mexico. Well, those people traveled from Asia prior to water levels rising. You were able to just travel across like a bridge type of thing from Asia.
mm,
So the only thing that separates Asia from Africa would be the Suez Canal, which is not a large body of water. So it's safe to say that those people were Africans that traveled to what we call Mexico. So before a race, you were just tribes of people,
mm.
no
Facts.
color, no none of this shit. Tribes of people that had similar cultures. Now you have General Cortez, which comes and colonizes what's quote unquote called Mexico.
Mm,
This is where the Spaniard comes from.
mm,
So and this not be disrespectful, but this goes ties into the conversation of race. It's kind of disrespectful for you to call yourself Spanish, Hispanic, Latino, because that's what you were called after you were colonized. And when we study history and find out what were the groups of people before we were called that, or before they were called that, how does this tie into this whole thing of race? Race just diminishes history if we want to keep it real. You know, we even had a president in Mexico, Guerrero, I think Vincent Guerrero, black guy, quote unquote, if we want to say black. See, so needless to say, we start seeing a world bigger than race. We start seeing a world bigger than just what we want to define as culture. We get into the facts of what happened, so forth and so on, and we move forward. We transcend titles. We transcend all these emotional disbeliefs and disagreements, and we form family. So family will be the backbone. Like-minded individuals with an intent in mind of being successful, this forms community. So I'll stop there. I'll let you go.
Man, nah, man. That's what you're supposed to touch up on history. Then it proves to people that listen, the unicism that was there. There's always ways they created to divide people. That that's what the whole purpose is. Not just divide and conquer. It's just to divide you. Period. This is why,
Mhm.
like, hey, listen. You have blacks that be like, I'm African American. Then you have some people that be like, no, I'm Dominican. No, I'm Haitian. They're separating to the ties because of what they are told. So if you separate certain things, you don't look at yourself as a whole union. You only look at yourself through one lens, and that's one of the biggest things that can always be. Uh, I can say it can be beneficial on certain levels, but I can also say it's brainwash on another. Like you're disregarding what else comes with who you are, and that's one of the things you want to be able to embrace and just accept things for what they are. Now, my caption I'm going to put for tonight is this I wrote out was the mindset shift. A coaching mindset can sometimes feel abstract or distant, especially if the government decisions don't match the community needs. We always talk about like, hey, why do we need that? It is not helping our community. Like, what are the things you're putting in place that helps us out? If you ever pay attention, there's always things that every community or every quote unquote race feel like it says that they need. Um, for instance, I'm black, I'm talking about African Americans. One of the things we always say is like, listen, we need contracts so we can build some of these railroads, we can do certain things of that nature. The blue collar, we're always talking about, hey, putting stores in place, having education systems behind us. But there's things we're always looking for either the government to give us or have some type of alliance or an agreement, a settlement, or or something of that nature to where we can do business and thrive within our own selves. And then a community mindset tends to be more immediate and practical, rooted in direct relationships with shared experience. One thing we're always being taught, actually, you can contest to this, we're always being taught, like, hey, listen, this is how things used to be back in the gap. Black Wall Street. We had all this. There's nothing that we didn't have. So it's more so rooted to how do we get back from the past and make it to the present. But we have a lot of division that comes up. Some people say they talk about the education system. They talk about it in blacks wanting to help one each other out. They talk about it within the music of divide and conquer, where the mindset is getting polluted through different frequencies that cause the divisions where unity can't be met. One thing I used to always talk about is if you can have every type of personality sit at a table and do business, watch that community or whatever it is thrive. Have your businessman, have your thug, have your teacher, have your blue car, have all of them at a table and they understand each other. You can watch things thrive, but we're such in a division just based off what we look at. A lot of things can't get just move forward. So both are important, but they serve different purposes. One creates a large scale and scale order. The other builds human connections and resilience. This is why anytime you see politics, they're always looking at who do you know? Hey, who else can get us down the line? Hey, what trades or networks do you have outside the United States? This is where things become beneficial because things sometimes starts on the micro about on a micro level before it becomes macro. You start your lines early, then it grows into a bigger proportion. So, with that little small rant right there, well, I wouldn't say rant, but uh, I just want to put a lot of bases out there, like where this type of conversation is going to grow. Why is it that when, like I said, when one of us starts thinking country, we're always reminded what the country has done. But then we'll also say the benefits of the country if people use it on a, let's say, on a give or take type of style. I want to say give it. I say give or take, but I'm trying to figure out the word like, on a systematic basis. Let's say systematic basis when it's beneficial, people want to run with it. So which one is it? You don't want anything from the country, or you still want things to come from the country? One of the biggest things they got right now that people are talking about is the labor. They said, hey, listen, if the iPhone is created in the United States, it's going to be $3,500 for the next iPhone. Cool. I'll stick with the iPhone I got, or I'll just go to Android. But people are looking at it as a problem because they're like, man, listen, that's going to be too much money. I don't understand where things can actually be beneficial into the economy that people look at it the opposite way, right? Do I understand things can get more expensive? Cool. But you also got chances for other things and different avenues to flourish. Stop looking at things to the level of what you want and start looking at the greater picture of what we need. That's all I got.
Okay. Okay. So kind of centered around, like I said, a family thing. It transcends you being an individual. So now going back to like the community beefs that people have as far as like the black community, quote unquote, we have these unspoken rules within the black community that if you're black, well, you're Christian, most likely. Um, you don't particularly eat the healthiest. You're Democrat. Um, it's like fundamental things, like, you know what I'm saying? Most of your conversations are probably centered around sports and hip hop. You dress a certain way. These are false narratives, right? And this is what this community has to understand. People have the right to choose to live on those little levels how they choose.
Mhm.
If I'm Republican, you Democrat, we come from the same race, it don't mean that we automatically don't belong to the same community. Because what they used to say, religion and politics is what we do at home. It don't leave the house. This is the way it used to be, quote unquote. So
Mhm.
when we speak about historically, Black Wall Street, Seneca Village, hundreds of original like black communities that thrived, they were thriving right after slavery.
Mhm.
They were thriving before we were involved with the Democratic Party. Most of those communities were formed by black Republicans. That's another conversation, another time. But it's not the political party per se that allowed us to produce the results. It was the mentality of the people and the communities and so forth and so on. So if I think benefit my culture first for the sake of the conversation, how I do it doesn't necessarily like I'm not tied to that the way the next person is. If one person can maneuver a different route, as long as we have the same like GPS route or the same destination or end goal in mind, that's all that matters. You're gonna have differences. So it doesn't mean that everybody got to get along and agree on everything because no one does that. So community is not just about who you always agree with. That's a trash narrative, right? So going to the country aspect, we have a love-hate relationship with America, where historically it's like a Stockholm syndrome. Sometimes it's like a abusive situation. But if America doesn't thrive, we as a community, nonetheless as individuals, we don't thrive. So in order for the country to continue to advance, we have to have some type of loyalty to the country, like it or not. It's the way it works, you know. So unless, well, I can't even say that. Unless we plan on coming together and coming up with something new, and we're gonna migrate somewhere else, and like it's not gonna happen. You know, there's a lot of people talking about dual citizenship and all these things, and that's cute, that's cool. But at the end of the day, I like it when some of the quote unquote Black Republicans say, my ancestors built this country, so the benefits that this country offers, I'm gonna take that. I need that. Any type of financial literacy that allows me to navigate through this country successfully, economically, I need that too. So you have one group of people, Black, that's like pro-American, and then you have another group that's like pessimistic towards the whole system. And I get it on both sides, but if, like I opened up with the stock market and the bond market, if those things collapse, we don't have a country. If we don't have a country and we're not as powerful as we are, being the most dominant country in the world and the most successful economy in the world, it don't mean Black people gonna thrive, because now what tends to happen is now you're gonna have another group of people that's gonna come in and take that position from the quote unquote white people. It still don't put you in the head seat. And you can't even think about being in the head seat, because going back to community, you can't even function as a community without being in the head seat, making the big decisions and all this other type of stuff. So I would just say, like, everybody has to think, even politically right now, where you have a president that's saying, whether you like the strategy or not, tariffs or not, you have a president that's at least talking about, I want to bring back manufacturing to America. And then, like you said, you have some people that's saying, fuck that, I don't want those jobs. Going back to knowledge and information, well, quote unquote, if the talk is AI is going to take majority of the jobs moving forward in the future, if you don't have more opportunities and jobs, what exactly are our children's children going to be doing for employment if there are no jobs, because artificial intelligence has taken all the jobs? So whether you like the message or the messenger, quote unquote, is it rooted in facts? America needs to be more productive. America needs to manufacture more things. If we don't produce anything, we don't have a future. You can't continue to just borrow money, print money, and then this is what's going to keep us. You know, there are other. India is becoming the next China. They have, they're growing towards the highest population, and their middle. India did not have. You have countries that did not have a middle class prior to free trade with America. So the middle class working man in America and woman in America have funded other nations' middle class. You're building your enemies. You know what I'm saying? Like America may be an enemy, quote unquote, but you're building enemies that really have less respect for you and less concern for you than America does.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point, we have to advance home. We have to take care of home. So I ain't gonna go too hard on that, but like I said, at least you have somebody that's saying, let's bring back jobs to Americans. Because if we study AI and we study how everything is playing out, you're going to have less jobs moving into the future. Right now, education is saturated because everybody's going to school for the same things. We don't even emphasize going to trade school anymore. And that's another
Mm-mm.
problem if you really want to talk about the Black community per se in particular. We don't know, like, what are kids going to school and learning to produce or do that's beneficial not just for themselves but toward society? Nothing. Nada. It's a lot of schools like our parents and their parents at least had home ec. That's not even in the equation no
No
more.
more cooking classes, man. I need that, man. I need that. Y'all need, and listen, y'all need to make sure y'all people can cook for the next generation.
So we see the kids now, everything is based on electronics. And we even have to get to a space to where the kids are learning how to utilize the electronics to be productive, like in particularly working with AI. You know, we could use Chat GPT to build infrastructure, build businesses, build brands. So if we just think and look at it, we just have to advance home. We have to create more job opportunities, create more businesses. I've said it, you know, quote unquote, black men compared to the rest of the men in the country. Look, when these people come over here from India and all these other countries, no disrespect to nobody, because I know people from different races, cool with everybody, but they're not the smartest people in the world. They don't. They're not building generational wealth because they're educated. They're building generational wealth because they're open businesses. They're producing things, right? The average India Asian person comes here, set up shop. They go for the same shit: wash and terry, gas station, restaurant, beauty salon. You don't need an education for that. You don't
Consumers.
need DEI regulations for that either. You don't need a DEI regulation or education to invest in the stock market. You know what I'm saying? So we have to rewire our thinking as far as what's going to actually benefit our communities as far as us being productive citizens. Everybody can't go the same route. So you got it.
Oh man, let me go ahead and jump straight into it. China has a new thing where 2025, 2026, they'll be rolling out programs for for students as young as 6 years old to start learning AI.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed in country, Japan, North Korea, some countries, they're already mapping out and engineering their education system towards the future so they can dominate and produce something, give something back to their country as well as for themselves individually and independently to be able to produce something. We don't think grand level on a lot of things. I was talking to one of my mentors not too long ago. Like I said, I've been going down the educational route, certifications, and enrolling back to school for education. First thing I said, I wrote down a couple things that cover my nine. Out of that whole list, he said, the first thing you need to do is information technology. I said, look, bro, I got business management, I got business this, I got business that, I got over here logistics, I got all this information technology. Everything is going digital. It don't matter how much you want a business. That business is gonna be online, stupid. And I was like, oh well, you got a point. So it's funny, like just those small things really can make a difference towards learning these skills. Now, I left the college earlier today. Like I said, I got my game plan all ready. But what I'm saying is, that's me just thinking on an individual perspective. Like I said, other countries have already been formulating. This is what we're gonna do. Y'all see the difference? See the country, how they're creating their education system. It's not just country wise; it also goes to the community wise. You're enriching different places now. You can get more things established now. Because guess what? The main thing is still outsourcing to other countries for cheaper labor. And that's another thing we got going on. You have brothers that be like, listen, this is good for the community. I mean, good for the country. Gives more people jobs. You have some people like, nah, I want to pay cheaper labor. No, this is not good at all. I want cheaper labor. I want to be able to keep my money. I want to be able to do certain things like that. And I'm like, damn. So let's just say, hypothetically, the tariffs and things that Donald Trump is doing never came into play. You still be a cheap ass paying your employee who knows what they're doing because you want to be cheap. But see, we don't talk about that. We don't address those issues. You know what I'm saying? Everybody want to talk about what's the word I'm looking for? Capitalism. We want to use capitalism for everything, but we also don't want to pay the people who actually can get us thriving in better situations. Like this is when I always say the enrichment of something healthy and the enrichment of something poor. It's your development of the mind and how you go about executing. Yes, you can enrich both sides. I'm sorry if nobody ever told you that. So I still remember like having a small conversation with X. I was talking about Floyd Mayweather. I said, I remember every time Floyd Mayweather make a statement, he said, I'm an American first. You know what I'm saying? I'm American first. I'm American first. I'm not. I'm doing everything for the American. Now, how the biggest backlash on black people would always be. But then I looked back and I understood what he was doing. See, he talks out loud country wise, but he still execute everything for his community. Has anybody connected those two? See, you don't shoot yourself in the foot when you actually understand the grand level of things. You shoot yourself in the foot when you still thinking small. Think big, and then you can break it down as much as you need to. But y'all think so small. Y'all be like, let's think small, it'll get big. No, you got to start big. Then you start branching things down, how you would utilize your funds, your money. Where would you allocate it to? What would you do? And that's the biggest thing is like once you start seeing things on a grand level, even if you're not for it, you should always think it and speak it. Because other people are the ones who grant you the opportunities and they don't. They want to know how you think on a daily basis, on an outside basis. I just said before, I'm around some C class exams, directors, all that and above, in situations where I watch some meetings, they do what they need to do. Then they leave it in private. I hate these fucking people. They're stupid. But they never gonna speak that. You don't think people think the same way? That think on a grand level? Yeah, it can look unified, it can look beautiful. But behind closed doors, they're gonna speak their mind and they're gonna stick to their objectives. We don't never compliment the people who stick down the road that got them there, and then they tell you, listen, I went down this path, even though I knew I was going to lose a lot of friends, I lose some money, I was going to lose some sleep. I did it based for my community to be able to pour back. We don't, people don't even credit the therapists within our community. Therapy is so bad and all that. People are like, man, I don't think that's real. It doesn't help. It doesn't do this. Listen, anything that can drain you is helpful. Not always in a good way, but sometimes in a bad way. But what I'm saying is if you're pouring into people and it requires you to reset your mind, go to the doctor, you got to reset your body. Go to holistic health doctor, you got to reset it based on the herbs and the nutrients. There's always a constant reset you have to give because you're giving out. You must learn to maintain some of the things that you have and be able to give out and have the people around you who can pour into you. If your side is, if you're always pouring, and you're never receiving, you're on the wrong. You haven't learned how to maneuver yet. Me, I have a bad day. I know who to call. I get right back into the motion.
Shouts out to Floyd, man, for that start process of being an American. I like Floyd said something powerful one time. He said, and if we pay attention to it, when you watch the Olympics, um, you really start to see things differently because no disrespect to nobody's race, quote unquote, whatever. The Olympics really just becomes mostly a bunch of people of color from different countries battling it out, majority. And you notice Floyd said something powerful. He said, whenever I was in the Olympics, they never said that's a black man or that's an African American. They said that's an American. So you have to pay attention to when these subtitles mean something and when they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So one of the biggest things that we have to emphasize is um, self-education on all levels. Everything that affects you, you should strive to learn the most about to your maximum ability. If, like me per se, one of the biggest reasons I was so attached to health, I would say touching my 19, 20 years old, moving forward, was because the most funerals I went to was based on what transpired in the kitchen.
Mm.
So automatically I seen that as something that was critical, right? So I started seeing that you can be the most educated person, the most successful person. If you die prematurely due to health related issues that's self inflicted, then that puts a limitation on your greatness, and it puts a limitation on how much impact you can give back to your community and your country. So everything that affects you, you want to learn the most you can about it and move forward. When I started learning about stocks, I'm not a analyst or nothing like that, but I started paying attention that everything we consume is owned by a company. And sometimes I would think that there was a lot of different companies that own each individual thing. And I started realizing, well, companies operate under umbrellas. It's not really that many companies that like run these products and own these different types of things. So now you start getting to the ebbs or the flows of how economics flow and what affects what. How does the bond market affect the economy? So you want to learn about what affects your life. On a community level, something as simple as self-defense. Um, be a man all you want, have a family all you want. You can't protect home. Once again, this is going to be counterproductive towards building community if we can't protect the community. When you study religious history, you'll find that people had more religious wars out of anything. Where you had a church, you had a military. You know what I'm saying? So there was never a separation between religion and war. It's always something that coexisted. So you always fight, defend, and die behind your beliefs. That's what people have been doing for many years.
Mm.
So you want to learn self-defense, whether it's you want to learn how to utilize firearms. You want to learn like a physical combat. You want to protect yourself at all levels, physically, mentally, spiritually. Religious practices and spiritual practice govern the way people think and how they see the world. The more you evolve spiritually and you learn the truth behind the religious teachings that we're taught to live by, you begin to see the world differently. You begin to
Mm.
see other people differently.
Mm.
You know, if I want the best for myself on a spiritual level, it's going to change the energy of the people that I deal with and that I attract to and that I attach myself to. So if you function at a low level, I don't care what community you belong to, whether you look like me or not, chances are I'm not going to fuck with you because you're bringing my energy to a low place. So the only way you begin to transcend as a successful individual, that transcends to community, and then you benefit a country, something that transcends all of that. Well, you first have to matter physically, mentally, spiritually to yourself. So if I understand how everything that affects me operates and moves, and I have the knowledge and the information behind it, I move better. I move more effectively. I was talking to a family member who's involved in politics, and we began randomly talking about red meat, and he was like, "Well, I still rock with the red meat." I was like, "Fam, I gave up uh, red meat when I was like 21. I gave up pork and soda in high school. I'm 33, and it's an older cousin." I was like, "Well, fam, look, you have a visionary mind, but if you keep going down the bad side of health, what good is it?" You know what I'm saying? So I was like, let's work on that. So let's start calling it gray meat because they have to spray it with chemicals to make it red to make it more attractive for you to buy. Let's start thinking about the cow. How cows don't eat grass no more. They're eating GMO corn. This forms E. coli bacteria in the cow. So now look at that beef like I'm consuming bacteria from a bacteria infested animal that's not eating what it's supposed to eat. Now let's look at it. It's the longest it takes your body. Gray meat would be the hardest meat for your body to digest.
Mm.
So let's look at it like that. The longer it takes your food to digest, you're building up uh mucoid plaque in your colon and all these things. So I was like, when you make some shit like that disgusting on an informational level, now you kind of insane if you keep indulging, at least at the same level. So I was like, scale back. You ain't got to go cold turkey. Do it like once a month, twice a month. Track it, have the discipline. Because if you matter to your community and your country, this matters too. See, you can't if you we're gonna have a conversation about it, it gotta be on all levels. So hopefully that resonated with them. Now don't get it twisted, everybody got they vices. I ain't shitting on nobody, but I was just saying this is how you have to look at your vices. The minute you start getting comfortable with your vices, you become counterproductive towards your benefit to society. Your benefit to
Mm.
yourself, nonetheless, but don't make the negative things about your personality or your diet or anything, don't make that shit sexy or attractive or positive to you. You want to look
Mm.
at that shit as the disgusting shit that it is. If you smoking cigarettes or whatever, you want to, every time you light that shit up, you want to tell yourself, oh, this cancer, I'm inhaling cancer. Eventually, the brain is going to start saying, oh, this is how you got to look at things. When you're eating good, but the good food don't taste as good as the bad food, you got to start telling yourself, man, I'm doing my body right with this shit. Eventually, the brain will start thinking, oh shit, good food tastes good. Whether it tastes good or not, you have to start utilizing your brain properly. But if all the bad shit is attractive, society is going to tend more so to the bad things. And I'll switch gears. When you brought up something about the labor force, America became a wealthy, lazy nation. Nobody want to build things anymore. Industrial revolution. Nobody want to work no more like that. We want everything cheap. That's self-inflicting wounds because the cheaper everything is coming outsourced, that means the productivity of the nation dies and it transcends down the line. That means education standards are low. Everything is as low as the production level of a country. So wherever you're trying to build and expand, you're not going to have the luxury of comfort at the same time, whether it's your diet, whether it's what you're producing for the country, so forth and so on. So you want to look at growth and uh, making progress. These are uncomfortable things. The minute you start trying to have it all, something's going to have a bad balance and you're not going to be as productive. So you got it.
Nah, man. No, some good points being made. My main things got discussed early on is the country versus the community mindset. That's one thing I wanted to make sure we address is like, are people still thinking for themselves or they're thinking on an overall basis? And sometimes what people don't understand is thinking overall is you're still going to take some losses somewhere. Um, it's very rare that people can execute 100% of their ideas and get everybody involved behind them. One of the things for sure that just made a conversation about the government, right? Some people are for the government and some people are against the government. Even though the government's supposed to work for you, there's still things that people feel as what the government does doesn't work in their best interest. And I'll be a person to also say, yeah, I believe in that as well. But overall, how you get your message out is how you effectively communicate with uh, situations. One of the main things they used to always say was lobby. You want to get heard more, learn how to lobby, learn how to do certain things to get yourself involved. If if your not say studies, if your tactics is still social media based blasting, marketing videos, it only can do so much until you got to know how to reach people. You know, one of the things I want to study is public affairs. I believe that's something that's really big within itself. Is understanding how to connect or correlate your message to the individuals to be able to process the things that you're saying and to be able to be something with a figure within the market. Now, the market is up and down. Life is up and down. You see how the two exist? It's good days, it's bad days, but overall, we should always aim for something good, more than anything else. So on my end, I'm satisfied with the subject as far. If you got anything you want to bring up and touch up on, I want to talk about
Um, I'll just say this: to understand the full scale of something, you have to remove yourself from being in it, and then you see it outside looking in, and then you can look at it from being within it. Now you get a full perspective. And that analogy, as it pertains to the conversation, somebody has to be willing to do the hard work, the heavy lifting, the shit that's uncomfortable. And this is what moves communities forward. Somebody out of families, somebody out of generations has to decide that this isn't it. It's more to this picture. So when you come from communities that's lacking in resources, lacking in development, people have to step outside of what's normal to transcend. Like I said, somebody out of that family has to say, yeah, you know, this is how we eat, this is how we live, but let's do the math. If everybody dying, somebody has to break that cycle and say, I'm gonna be different. I'm gonna be the warrior of this. I'm gonna be the person that stands out. And what tends to happen in that equation is that person becomes isolated. You know, a lot of times people don't want to follow the person immediately when they isolate themselves from the norms, but they tend to follow that person once that becomes attractive, once they become quote unquote successful. But nobody wants to be that person en route. So you just gotta look at everything in life like that. Um, that's the person that's more beneficial towards anything, community, country, whatever. The person that dares to be different. You see more and you want more and you work towards that. So you have to have the discipline, the motivation, and you have to have the audacity to break cycles, whatever those cycles are, whether it's poverty, like I said, health. You know, sometimes we come from communities and situations to where um, I'm in my 30s. Sometimes we don't even know a lot of people in our 30s that have families. Most of the families come from people that's older. You know what I'm saying? Those are cycles that have to be broken. We have to produce more families at early ages to where, that's positive things shouldn't stand out that much as being different. That should be the norm. You ever been in a room with people on not the highest level and they like, oh damn, you read books, you're smart, or you do? That's a low functioning environment.
it.
Damn near every environment should at least function on, we have to change the standards of what the norm is. You know what I'm saying? So that's just something to think about. Coming from the Black community, you shouldn't stand out if you read books. You shouldn't stand out if you eat just a little clean. You shouldn't stand out if you have a child and you're not on child support and you're actually with the mother or the father. These are things that shouldn't stand out. You know what I'm saying? So if you're in your 30s and you're making, in excess, close to 100K or, somewhere in that world, those are things that shouldn't stand out. These should be the new norms. So the way you shift communities, you have to have a vision of what success is to you and the people that you fuck with. And this is how you create new norms. Because I tell you this, I'm not really one that's big on having mentors and shit like that. I don't have a problem with it. I have people that, or whatever. But if you think that people are older than you, always have your best interests, I think you got to reevaluate that. everyone looks at resources as limited, no matter what the resources are. If you look at the dating world, you look at the financial world, if, if the people at the top that's older in age and money and resources gave everybody free game on how to have what they have, they wouldn't be in the position that they're in. Because once again, that'll be the norm. That's classism on a different scale. Have you ever noticed that in like certain communities, it's always like you shouldn't have leaders leading in anything until they die. You should always have somebody in the youth that's stepping up into positions of power, whether it's in the family, whether it's at your jobs or whatever. If you have nothing but old people leading, that's showing that people necessarily don't want to shift power. And part of not shifting power is not shifting all of the information to get the youth to where they are. So you just have to be aware of that too. This is another reason why a lot of communities probably don't advance. We look at the political world, all these different worlds. 9 times out of 10, the gatekeepers that you think that are keeping you back aren't the people that don't look like you. It's the people that look like you that they want to stay at the top longer. So I ended on that.
Mm. Fair enough. Do you do a great evaluation on the people that you're looking to take information from, and also be able to challenge them at times as well? I'm a person that believes in investigating people I take advice from. So that's it, man. Go ahead, sign us off, brother.
All right, Talking and Talking Official Podcast. Thank you for tapping in. Thank you for your time. Share the information, give your feedback, especially if the information resonates with you, compels you to be greater, better, or something. Give us shouts out. Up top, we got No Ordinary Brother. I go by the name of King Exodus. Till we do this again, we out.
Peace.